Hi, this is Penny. Welcome to my studio. This video is all about making fabrics from scrap materials, and we're going to make this beautiful, rich, textured fabric. The purpose of the video was merely to make the fabric. However, I took it further by making a few things so that you had some idea of the sort of things that could be made from this fabric. You'll need a lot of primary and secondary colours. You'll need a lot of different coloured threads for the embroidery, and you'll need some organza in a colour of your choice. We're going to be using these colours for the video. They're bright primary and secondary colours, and I'm not using any white or any black. You can use synthetics or natural fibres. You can use textural stuff. And as you can see, I've got a couple of small pattern bits which also add interest. So any type of fabric is fine in here. Select a piece of fabric for your base. As long as it's relatively stable, anything can be used. And you can even join pieces together if necessary, because you won't actually see them. So use up your larger scraps. Once you've laid out your yellow, start laying out your other colours. Do one colour at a time and distribute them evenly over the whole surface. You'll find it easier if you do one at a time. And eventually it should look something like this. This is a type of organza, and it melts extremely well. However, the glitz doesn't melt and it stays in the work, which I really like. I do chop it up because I don't want circles everywhere. So both of these pieces I sliced up some bits and put them in on the top layer of all the other fabrics. And the result was that I had bits of copper and bits of gold in the fabric. You can see two layers of organza variegated, and I've reversed them so that I get red and yellow on both sides. And it's thoroughly pinned. For the next step, you need to use a darning foot, and you need to lower your feed dogs. If you can't lower your feed dogs, then you need to use a darning plate. I'm just literally free machining round and round in circles, just to hold down the edges of the fabrics and not making the circles too small. What I didn't show you before I did the circular stitching was that I actually just ran the machine around all the pins, all over the entire sheet, and then I was able to take the pins out and then do the circular stitching. And you can see here basically both types of stitching. And if we turn it over, you can see on the back the circular stitching. We have to look at the tools that we're going to need next, and that's a heat gun. Now, many of you will be very familiar with heat guns. Those of you that aren't, this is a heat gun, and close up we see the details. They're extremely useful, and yeah, I just couldn't manage without mine. Now we're going to use the heat gun. You need to warm it up a little first before you start. And then you need to start slowly in one area and just work over the whole sheet. Don't try and do it too deeply all over. Just do a once over and then go back later and do the little bits that you think could be burnt more. If you burn too much in one place for too long, you will burn through the fabrics underneath. Now you can see what it looks like by viewing the whole sheet, and just another view of the whole sheet, and you'll notice that the cut shapes still show reasonably clearly, but once you have embroidered heavily, this will tone those down a bit. So this isn't finished, it's just basically the halfway stage now. Here I'm embroidering the fabric. I decided to do vertical lines of embroidery rather than just randomly all over. And now it's been embroidered in vertical strips right across the piece. We'll go in a little bit closer so you can see, and eventually we'll go in very close. And look at the beautiful crusty surface. It's just so rich and so interesting. You can further embellish this with beads. You can do hand embroidery on it. But look how crusty it is. I really like this effect. And just so you can see very clearly how much vertical embroidery there is, I'm showing you the back again here. Then I used some of the fabrics from the work and also some matching organza colours, and I made the flowers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but if I don't use them, they'll just go into my flower box. So I cut a piece 18 centimetres by 25 centimetres to make the front panel on a small bag, and I made the flower larger, and I'm going to just have a single flower on it. I used the stitching horizontally, and there was still a lot of fabric left. I cut it out very carefully. The little bit at the bottom I'm going to use to make boho beads, and I'll show you those shortly. I should add that when I make my bags, I don't use a pattern at all. The panel, as far as I'm concerned, is the front flap, or in some cases the front of the bag, and that's the most important thing. And then I build a very simple bag around it. I don't even usually measure it, I just eyeball it. So, my bags come out a little bit wonky, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. I put 2 pieces, one on each short end, and then I cut one for the bottom as well and put that on. And then I stitch them down, and then I fold them under. And that is the beginning of my bag panel. I sort of needle sculpt the corners and things just to make them look as good as I can. And then after that, I put a piece across the top, and that is the part that will go into the bag, will be attached to the bag. The top section is attached here, and I turn the ends of it in at a slight angle, so that it's a little bit smaller at the top than it is where it is sewn onto the panel. I like to do that because I can put it into the bag, and it allows a little bit of space for the handle to come through. That section at the top will be the fold area, because the panel itself is quite stiff and I don't want the fold to be stiff. And this is how I make my button closure loop. I've used 4 lengths of 8-ply black acrylic yarn, knotted one end, and then put that under the foot of the machine, and then twisted and twisted and twisted, and as I twist, so I zigzag, and then I turn it and do the same again, and I zigzag it about 8 times altogether, and that forms a nice round black cord. That's going to be my button loop, and I often put some kind of diluted PVA glue onto that section because it's going to take a lot of wear and tear. So if I rub the PVA glue into it, it doesn't show. It just stiffens it and seals it. Then I'd used 1 strand of the same black acrylic yarn, and I zigzagged it using a rainbow-coloured cotton, and I zigzagged it again about 8 times, twisting every time as I go, and that gives me a really nice flexible little round cord, rainbow-coloured cord that I can attach by hand. I've used it around the panel of the bag. I've also used it for the center of the flower. And I think I made about 1 meter, because that was just enough to make sure that I had enough to do those things. By the way, I did use some thin cotton wadding on the back of the flap, and then I'll line it with black polyester cotton. Use the instructions for making the loop, only this time make 3.5 to 4 meters of it, and then plait the results, and that'll give you a nice little shoulder strap. It's a 3 plait, by the way. As this video is about making the fabric itself, everything else that I've included, I'm afraid, doesn't have step-by-step instructions, but I'm hoping there's enough information for some of you that can take the ball and run with it. And I will be making videos on making cord, making possibly bags, and also making things like boho beads. So do stay tuned for those. I hope you enjoyed seeing this fabric made. If you did, please like and subscribe and share if you know anyone who would be interested. There are more images at the end of the video, all made with scrap fabrics. Do enjoy them. So, until next time, thanks for watching.